I had a desire. We went to Austin, and that didn't work out for us at all because of our own errors. Found ourselves in Mexico, and I thought it was long gone, and then I saw that video, and I'm wondering if because I feel like I'm told to go places. I could be totally wrong about that I have attractions for a reason. Like a while ago, I wondered if you thought I would go there because I asked a question and you didn't want me to limit it to the States, and I felt it and I let fear rule and I said States, and you were like, anywhere? Yeah. I shut down. I knew you were giving me an opportunity, and then in that same talk you said, hey, you might go to New Mexico and meet somebody and they tell you they're building, and that exact same thing did happen, but you were only one state off. It was in Texas. And then I said, he said this would happen. And years later,
I was only giving you, I wasn't stating what I felt would happen. I'm just trying to open your mind to the possibilities of what would happen. But one thing I must say to you is that you are very spirit influenced when it comes to your choices and decisions. And quite often that influence is not the good influence you think it is. Right?
And Ricky, when you decide to develop your will in a loving manner, truly decided, you'll get
which you haven't done yet.
Which you haven't done yet. When you decide no more addictions, I'm going to live a principled life and I'm going to feel whatever comes up in that process, the guidance you receive will be very good. But until that point, you can't say that it's necessarily good because there's all these other attractions you have around your addictions and
lots of dark spirit influence around you surrounding your addictions.
Yeah.
And particularly your addictions for specialness.
Yeah, that's the thing to work on.
That many people who are quite open mediumistically are guided by that one addiction, and unfortunately that addiction can lead you in Australia in so many areas of life, and also cause a lot of annoyance to the rest of your family and everything else where you're not considering love of them, love of them and care for them.
And not showing up as a good husband and father because you've got your personal addictions, When you decide to, again, have that principled life for love, they will find you far more consistent, far more
at the moment, you're very attracted to the metaphysical, but you're not very attracted to principles.
Yeah.
And the person who's attracted to the metaphysical but not to the principles gets easily misled and often misleads others. And this is the danger you're in, both in terms of misleading yourself and also others. And even your own family, at times, even though you think you're acting in a loving manner. And, what the people around you need to realise is that a person who's that attracted to those things but neglects responsibility and neglects love in all aspects of his life is not someone they should follow. So if you want to go to another location, and location here, location there, well, that's up to you. But at the end of the day, if I was part of your family, I'd be choosing not to follow you until you work out who's influencing you and what influences they have on you. You understand what I mean? Because at the moment you don't understand the influences upon you spiritually. The spirits who are influencing you. And you think, oh, they're saying it's a good idea, and I feel it's a good idea. And then you go off and do something you feel is a good idea, but you haven't examined the principles involved, whether it's a good idea or not. And also even the principles involved of dragging your entire family around, following your life, rather than them being allowed to have their life. Even that principle is a very important principle. So, and then there's also the principles involved in teaching others when you do not know the spirits who are actually talking through you. You have yet to identify them. You've yet to understand their motivations for connecting with you, and yet you're expecting other people to listen to you when you do channel and things like that. So that's a very dangerous thing to do, because basically what you're doing there is saying you should listen to me, but I don't know who I'm listening to. So
a lot of people do this when they hear divine truth, and I've seen you do this where you want to build a life and sort of even build a following or build your mediumship or do all these things without first building that character, you know, building your relationship with God, which doesn't involve a physical location as much as a spiritual aspiration, you know. And it's very important not to get seduced by the building of the physical things or the metaphysical things and think that that's you building the character and building your relationship with God. If you do the building on yourself first, if you like, with God, then these other things will pan out. But at the moment, even what you just described, you're sort of letting spirits guide you to these different things. But because you haven't done the work on the character, then you're not discerning about who those people are.
So what you basically said in these talks, follow that. Begin with principles, and it takes care of everything else, including being misled.
Yeah, well, you know, this is where you've got to be really sincere about your own addictions and your own sins. And a person who's principled would be really sincere about their own sins. They'd be very aware of what their own sins are, and they'd want to be aware of what their own sins are, and they would never act upon them. And particularly with the sin you have of being wanting to be special, that's a fairly big sin leading you in a lot of quite dark directions at times. And also having sort of, it affects the rest of your family quite a lot too. And that is having a negative effect on your life and their life. So that's an example. If you understood the principle of humility, so humility, there are many sub-aspects to humility, and one is that none of us are special.
Yeah, I know I struggle with that.
Or you can say it another way, all of us are special.
I'm trying to do this my whole life, and thought and everything. It's not because I don't want to feel this is me.
That's right. And in a lot of ways you've not accepted what God's creation and part of you is, which is your personality. And in fact, what you're trying to do is circumnavigate your true personality by feeling that you're special, and because you really have an addiction to mediumship rather than that. The addiction to mediumship is making you feel special, and that's not a proper use of even mediumship. The proper use of mediumship is primarily to share truths and also to be helpful with people on earth, not so you can feel anything from it.
So not so I'm taking, I'm like an emotional vampire, the things I've noticed, there's taking involved and it's impure.
That's right.
Or if you're trying to do that thing you're saying, that's taking as well, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm superior.
I'm special because I can, or because I know.
You should listen to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nobody has to listen to you. Even your own wife doesn't have to listen to you. Does it make sense? Nobody has to listen to you. Your children don't have to listen to you either. It's important, of course, that they learn to listen to somebody. It's important they learn to listen to somebody who loves them. But when you're just addicted to your own feelings, then that's proof that you don't love them. Does that make sense? So it'd be different. Like Mary and I were discussing this morning. There is a principle that if a person is more loving than you, then it's very wise to trust them and listen to them. The problem that you face is you'd like to believe you're more loving than your family when you're not. And in fact, the addiction to being special makes, in a lot of ways, you darker than the rest of your family in terms of the condition of love. And if they then listen to you in that state, then it's going to be to their own detriment. If you became more loving, then of course a person can trust what they hear from you more and listen to you more. And of course, you think about it from the perspective of God. God is the most trustworthy being in the universe. And then every one else of us is who are just humans. We're not gods. We're just humans. We have various degrees of love, and the persons who have more love than others, listen to them more. But and eventually you'll come, oftentimes, to trust them completely because you know that they have more love than you do. But when you're in an illusion that you love more than others do, and then spirits feed that illusion, anybody who listens to you now is in danger themselves. Because whatever you're told, they will get told, and they'll listen to it. And if you can't correctly identify who you listen to or the motive you have in listening to them, but which for you is a lot about feeling special, then unfortunately you're going to end up misleading a lot of people using these things. And like I said, in your own family. Now, it's funny because the rest of the family smile when I say these things, right?
And so squirm a little bit.
And squirm. And the reason why is because they are already aware of this to a degree, of what I'm saying to you. And they've believed that your own image of yourself means that they can't really say anything about it. And also, you've believed that you're doing things in harmony with the teachings that we're teaching, Mary and I are teaching. And you're trying to convince your family that you are doing such things, but we don't agree. You are not doing such things. Does that make sense? And now, you know, it's funny because during the week last week we had a discussion with Cheng and Kimberly and Sai and Risha about how the men in particular were believing themselves to be, you know, in a certain condition and feeling that they were in a better condition than their girls were and so forth. And when you start analysing the behaviour, you can see that's not actually true. Quite frequently, the other party involved in the relationship knows that you've not been loving or can feel that you're not, right? But because of your own level of arrogance in the situation, you can't even hear from them that you are, and they don't even feel brave enough to even say it to you. Because of the level of certainty, and if it's spirit-fueled certainty, it's like more than just your own certainty now. It's also other spirits who are controlling you going, oh, I'm certain too, you know, and so you feel doubly certain, even though it's an error, you know. So this is the danger of what you're doing. You are mediumistic, of course, just like everyone else here is. But when you have the addiction to get power over others, or to be special, or to be, you know, adored by others, then of course it's no longer being used for the right purpose.
I did think I noticed, but I wanted to ignore it, like sometimes, because you know how certain, either God or your guides feel a certain way, and you can feel that pulling away, or, hey, where are you going? And just accepting of, oh, you're here, okay, cool. And thinking, I tried to draw the line helpful, but I wasn't feeling why they were helpful. What were they getting out of it? Why would they allow me to feel somebody and give them information that they agreed was true? I should have been very discerning about who that was and what their motivations were.
Of the spirit, you mean?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, but you're not discerning about your own motivation, so how can you discern another's?
Okay, yeah, we want to...
So you're still focusing now, you're still focusing on their motivation, and I'm going, no, the problem here isn't their motivation, because if you sort out your motivation, you'll attract spirits with a better motivation, right? So the problem isn't their motivation, it's yours.
So as soon as you feel that, you know, what you felt were higher spirits pulling away and other people there, the first thing I would ask myself is what's going on in me? Yeah.
Yeah, and I think I noticed that was a truthful whatever, but that would have been where, why? Because I think I know it's a good reason that they were pulled away.
Of course.
Yeah, that's right. But because you're resisting dealing with the internal, you know, the soul, that your soul condition.
And you don't want to deal with it emotionally. You want to believe you're intellectually over things when emotionally you haven't dealt with things.
I mean, you said exactly your issue before. You think that doing that would mean that you're lesser than others.
Yeah, and I'm finding that's very painful because, like, it doesn't just feel like shame or grief. It feels like there's something like annihilation or excommunication.
But that's just your feeling.
That's a false belief, though.
Yeah.
See, can I just say something to all of you? Just a principle that I'd like to remind all of you. I was talking about this with Robert just at lunchtime. God's principles, when you engage them, will lead you in a direction, and they'll lead you in a direction that's always loving, always truthful, always honest with self, always honest with others. You'll be humble, you'll have faith. God's principles lead you in these directions. So every loving principle has sub-aspects to it. So an example was love of self requires responsibility for self, for example. Responsibility for your own emotions, that's just an example. But when you live in harmony with the principle, you start to realise that what you feel is immaterial. It's not important. What the principle you live by will trigger your feelings, and you need to feel them. But see, what you frequently do, and then this is something I noticed a lot last weekend, is everybody was saying to me, but the reason why I do it's important. And
well, this is what I feel about it.
Well, this is what I feel about it, and to be frank, I don't care what you feel about it. Do you know what I mean? And the reason why I don't care about what you feel about it, because I don't care what I feel about it either. All I care about is, what is the principle, and am I doing it? Am I living it? If I'm not living it, then live it. If I'm going to live it, if I'm humble, whatever feelings I have, and no matter how hard they are, I'll deal with them. If I'm humble. If I've learned the principle of humility and all of the sub-aspects involved in humility, when I live in harmony with principles of truth and love in every circumstance, my humility as a principle will always be there. And if I need to feel, and I need to have my cries, and I need to release things, I'll do it automatically. But my feelings are not really important. What's important is, what are the principles? Are they right? Are they righteous? Are they in alignment with God's principles? If I live in harmony with God's principles, whatever I feel, I'm just going to feel.
And I won't actually, you sort of try, and a lot of people do this on the weekend as well, you try and describe the feeling that you think you're going to have or you need to have, but you won't even know what the feeling is until you make that choice to live by the principle.
Yeah.
And the principle of humility as you live by other principles.
And when you live by the principle and give up your addictions, then you'll start to, and go through the humble process of dealing with your feelings. Then you'll start to understand yourself and why you even chose to do something. Does that make sense to you? Yeah.
I think I get it. I get what you're saying a lot.
Yeah.
And it's hitting me hard right now.
Yeah. But often I find you agree with me more than Enrique does.
Yes.
But
he thinks he's the...
Yes, okay. He thinks, because he's been following a lot longer, that he's here and I'm here.
That's right.
And I feel that he treats me like that a lot of times.
He does, yes.
It does. It makes me feel like shit, so I don't say nothing to him. I'm like, But a lot of times you say something and he hears you, and I said the same exact fucking shit.
Like 5 years ago.
And I'm like, okay, I know I'm a female, I'm a woman,
And it's very annoying.
but it's so, because I don't feel like I'm right all the time, but I feel like I'm going towards the right direction, and I don't say nothing because he uses it kind of against me. Like, you're not really following it.
Yes. And many men we know do this.
And it is very damaging for their future that they do this to their spouses. It's usually men with their wives, sometimes it's women with their husbands, but it is very damaging to use God's truth to actually be in a power trip with your spouse.
It kind of turns me off from it. It kind of,
Yes.
So that's why I always tell him, I'm doing my own thing, leave me alone.
Yes. Yeah.
I follow, he's like, are you praying? Don't worry about it. I'm doing my thing. I feel like I'm good. Worry about yourself. But it makes me so...
Stop me for a minute. Yeah, you're mad, but just before you were really close to where you need to go, which is sad.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I'm sad.
now you're getting mad over the sad, so you feel...
Because I don't want to.
You don't want to feel how harsh that is. You know, like, what we see a lot of people doing, particularly who are in their intellect, thinking they understand divine truth and they don't. And as they start, putting pressures and everything on everybody else around them quite a lot. And for the most part, that's why most people around them don't listen to them, because they're actually not practicing the principles that we're teaching. They're actually practicing arrogance. And when you practice arrogance with other people, naturally there's going to be difficult, for the other people. The key for you is to feel you agree. But the second thing I'd like to address, and that is, you're not prepared to have a decent argument with him about it. Like, you're not prepared to go, Enrique, you're just so wrong on this matter. You know, like, you've got no idea what you're talking about, mate. Like, you're not prepared to have that sort of straightforward conversation, you know, because you feel it's too much effort, there's one. But secondly, and more importantly, you feel very unloved here. And if you have to have a conversation with him about it, you'll feel more unloved. Does that make sense? And this is why you don't want to have the conversation, because you'll just feel more unloved in the conversation. He'll demonstrate through the arrogance that he doesn't love you, and you become more conscious of it, and then that'll make you feel more unloved. And that's what you're trying to avoid. You're trying to avoid the feeling that you're not being loved. Now, eventually, if you can get over that feeling,
Go through the feeling,
and that's how you get over it. What will happen is you'll be able to raise every single issue with everyone around you whenever you need to, without being angry anymore, because you've dealt with the grief, without being angry anymore. And then the beauty of doing that is that now every single time he knows you disagree. See, at the moment, he feels when you're silent, that means that maybe you agree.
It's just not worth it to me.
I understand that, but the reason why it's not worth it to you is because there's this grief about being loved enough for you. Does that make sense?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah, you can feel that, right?
Yeah.
So this is a problem with a person who gets really arrogant about divine truth, is that the people around them start feeling a lot of grief about being unloved by the person, right? But they're unwilling to have the argument that says, you are not being loving. You know, you say you're being taught to love, but you're becoming less loving. You see? And this is something that most people who are in their intellect, when they try to understand what Mary and I teach, will do. They will use what they now feel they know to meet their own addictions with other people. And that's a very, very dark use of God's truth. Right? And we see it happening all the time. But it's very wrong. And this is why frequently when we're with you, you feel, and it's the same if you think for yourself, Kimberly, when we had the discussion a week ago for Anusha, it was the same, that you can feel more that we understand the position you're in, right?
John, with your wife, Laurie, as
yeah,
well.
Laurie's the same for John. There's just, many times we understand the position you are in better than your own partner understands the position they're putting you in. And you know, that's very sad. But also what's very sad is that you've tried to say this to him for the last many years. Like, how many years have we known you? It was like solid 10, isn't it?
10.
And you've been trying to say that for probably 9 of them. You know, these kind of things. And he's not listening to you. And then he listens to me, but is he even listening to me either?
I think he hears the words
He
and
hears the
repeats
words.
them.
But he's not
It's
actually...
because of the thing I said to you before, you're not building this thing inside of yourself about principle, about
It's not just because
soul
of that.
condition. You don't want it to enter you.
Yeah, but it's not just because of that. It's primarily because of his arrogance. Right? Primarily because of the arrogance, though. The desire for arrogance, which is the desire to have power over your own emotions, is the desire for arrogance. You want to be arrogant. And so with me, you're arrogant too. You believe that you get or understand what I'm teaching when I've said to you quite clearly that you do not. Right? And I find for many of the men it's like this. I can say to them quite clearly, the teacher, the person who's teaching you these things can say to you quite clearly, you do not understand it and you disagree. Even with the person who's teaching you. Right? Now that is an issue, it's going to be a very difficult issue to overcome. Because if the person teaching you is saying to you, you do not understand, and you think you do, well, what's going to change you now? What's going to adjust you now? Now, the only thing that can adjust you is you get hammered by the law of compensation, attraction, and cause and effect. That's the only thing that can change you now. You're not going to get any help in that place by anybody who's loving. And this is why the spirits who are loving step away, because they know it's impossible to help you in that place. Makes sense. So there's something to be very aware of, and it's important. And it's good you give us an opportunity to say this to your family as well. Very important for them to be aware of. Because it's important for them to go, Dad, here you are, or husband, here you are, going down this same track again, you know, thinking you know when you don't know, and look at how unloving it is to us, and you're not even considering that, you know, that kind of thing. And it's a very damaging place, and you're thinking you're practicing God's truth, and look at the terrible, you know, your family's just not properly coming along for the ride. But to be frank, if your family went along for the ride you're on, they're going to end up in the same hellish place you're in, and you don't believe you are. Right? And that's the issue you face. Every person who's arrogant and wants to be special and wants to think they understand and they do not is just going to mislead others into the same place or darker. Or the people around them eventually will just go, I don't want to be with you anymore because you're too hard to live with. You know. Many of you believe that because I'm so direct with my statements of truth that I am an arrogant person, and nothing could be further from the truth. Yeah. Mary is with me, she knows what I'm like. Many of you don't live with me, all of you don't live with me. You don't really know me as much as you think you do. And you don't understand how I feel that every opinion I have is open to change.
But you love truth, and this is what I would encourage for you, Anna, in your marriage, is to love truth above what you might feel. Because if you love truth and you stand up for truth and you speak truthfully with Enrique, it will uncover grief for you. You'll have the grief, and then
you'll get upset and whatever else.
Whatever, you'll each work through your things.
But his emotions don't matter. What matters is the truth.
Yeah, because it's the truth that binds you in a relationship, truth and love. And if those things aren't there in the first place, it's a very tenuous connection anyway. And you're settling for something that could be so much better, but you're just trying to guard your grief rather than going for that better thing.
Yeah. But Enrique, you've got to see you putting your family in that position, which is not a good position to put people in. To put them in a position where they've got to fight with you for their own existence part, almost, in the family. That's not a good position to put your family in. And it's not a good position to put your wife in a position where she feels that she can hardly even speak with you about what's happening. You, a humble person, like if I'm humble, I will know Mary's every feeling about how annoyed she is with me. You understand?
Yeah, it happens. I'm quietly in the corner and Jesus is like, you're pretty annoyed right now, aren't you?
And I'll also know why she's annoyed. Eventually, if I'm humble enough, I will know why. But I'll also not tell her why. I'll ask her why.
Yeah.
Because it gives her an opportunity to express why, right? So this means that she's able to then express herself. So Mary can express herself honestly. But
you can even feel when I'm not expressing myself honestly. So you're obviously not feeling this. Like
you can't feel your wife, because if you would know she's bottling up all of these emotions and feeling unloved by you, uncared for,
and not listened to,
disagreeing
with decisions.
Yeah.
If you either feel it and don't care, or you just don't feel it.
And probably you don't feel it,
I'd say
because you're so embroiled in this addiction to be special with spirits, you're not going to feel much else. To be honest, in that place. So, you know, but the net result of that is that the people around you feel you don't understand them, you don't get them, you don't understand why they feel the way they feel. But I meet your family, your children, and for the very first time, and I understand more about what they feel and why they feel it with you than you do. And you live with them all the time. Like, it doesn't make any sense if you think about it, but it's because you're not open emotionally to understanding what they feel. You're so embroiled in your own feelings about meeting your own feelings. And the spirits around you know this about you. And so they know they can manipulate you in this way and suggest that thing to you and make you feel a bit more powerful here and make you feel powerful over your wife there and over your children here and everything. And you're driving the people around you nuts, but they don't care. The spirits don't care And you don't care either because you're getting the addiction now. And so you don't care either. And that's not how I have a relationship. You know, it's very important in a relationship that I create, and Mary also creates, an atmosphere where we both understand each other, we both can express exactly how we feel with each other all the time.
Sometimes I think we need to have a weekend seminar on how to have an argument, because you know, people are either lightly abusive to their spouse, like overtly, or just sort of withholding things all the time. And you know, you need to be able to have a robust discussion about things if you're actually going to find truth. You know, if you're both seeking truth, you're both going to have a robust discussion. You've got to be able to disagree and go away and feel your feelings and come back and keep working towards things.
Yeah.
But most couples don't have any tolerance for just even a disagreement, because, as you said, Anna, you don't want to feel sad, you don't want to deal with
how unloved you feel.
The truth of what's happening. A lot of people are afraid their relationship might end, or that if something comes up for one person, they'll never get through it. Or these are all just false beliefs that ruin marriages.
Yeah. Maya, do you want to tell us?
I was just wondering, so when you see us with your spirit body, can you see how much we're holding in emotionally? Or
It's more important that I feel you rather than see you. So yes, when you look at this person's spirit body and their physical one, by the way, you can usually see their injuries, but that's not the important thing. The important thing is feeling you. Like, and when you feel people, it's a much more nuanced experience. So you might look at a person's body or their physical body and go, oh yeah, I can see you got that thing there, which some people can do quite clearly. You know, they can say, oh, I can see you got a worth issue because of that sort of hole that sort of exists in your bowel there that I can see. But at the end of the day, it's all still very impersonal, metaphysical. It's not the feeling part of it is, wow, you felt this with your mother and felt this with your dad, and this is how you know, the nuances of all of that is the important thing to feel. And this is where love is involved. You see, you can look at a physical thing and go, or a body, a person's body, and go, oh, they got this problem, obviously. Or you can look at their spirit body and go, oh, they got this problem, obviously. But that's really just, you could say, a physical examination that's very impersonal and not very caring. Obviously,
so you could say love causes you to want to feel that love leads you to the causes. A medical doctor can look at a body and see the effects, or a spirit, even in a lot of conditions, can look at a spirit body and see the effects.
Yeah.
But it's love, when there's love present, it's seeking the cause all the time, because it knows, the principle is that you deal with the cause, you get rid of the effects, and you get rid of any future effects. So anyone who loves is always compassionate to and seeking out causes.
And also seeing the relationship between a person's beliefs and the cause. So the cause is, so there are many beliefs that happen, you know, that develop over a person's life that then cause their body to be harmed in different ways. And if you just appraise the body, it's very critical. You need to get to the stage where you're looking at the real cause, which is very much about helping the person with their belief systems as to why they feel and believe the way they believe that causes these particular problems. So in the case of your dad, for example, that's why I focused you, Enrique, on the problem of wanting to feel special, right? Because that is causing a lot of trouble for you. You know, so it's causing body problems for you, but it's also causing you to engage with these spirits that are misleading you frequently, and therefore, you know, and putting a lot of pressure on you to be more unloving, actually. And if you understood how badly this one injury is affecting your life, perhaps you might want to change it, you know. But at this stage, up until now, you haven't even understood that one injury, you're so desirous of meeting the addiction and seeing that the addiction getting met is a good thing, rather than feeling that it's a very bad thing and it's causing a lot of damage to you and your life and to the people around you as well. and therefore it's going to have some long-term consequences. So the better thing, Maya, is to feel the person and go, how can I help? Like when I feel your dad, sure, he's got body issues and you see certain problems and so forth, and there are many other problems that I've described, but the biggest one causing the majority of problems for him right now is the desire to be special.
Which I feel like I have as well. So.
Yes, well, you know, you're probably the favoured, you know, which one of your dad has also encouraged in the, because Anna is feeling more and more criticised by Dad, Dad's going to focus on other women close to him to get certain addictions met, and you, being the older daughter, frequently are going to be end up in that role, and therefore there'll be some level of feeling of sort of pride that you're in the role that comes with that, but there's also a lot of sad things that come with that as well. Yeah. Oh, that's nice, isn't it? What's that? Is that a fridge, is it? Or? The water.